John Gapinski here with GameCoreOnline.com, bringing to you the third and final installment of our Tezz Trading Post. This match is going to be Tezz versus Delver. This happened during Grand Prix Trial Philadelphia here at GameCore. Kevin Quinn is the pilot of my build. It's a little different. Again, this is same match, so if you've seen the previous videos, the deck list is pretty similar. Definitely a couple little changes to the sideboard, and most notably, he does have a main deck Mindslaver, so he has a really good hand here. He's postured very well against the Delver player. As some of you know, this is the deck that I played at Gen Con in the Friday Night Magic Championships. Believe it or not, round one I got paired against a local guy, Stan Towarski, who played Delver, and we actually had just printed the GameCoreOnline.com token, which is, you know, humorously myself as an angel, and I had given one to Stan, of course, so that he could use it because he's playing Delver, and we get paired against each other in round one, so some irony there for you. I felt really good going into the matchup because, you know, Stan and I know each other pretty well. Stan's a very good player, definitely an up-and-coming player that people should really give some consideration to. But game one, you know, he got a Geist of St. Traff down, and when you don't see Black Sun Zenith, like that can single-handedly be the worst card for the Tezz Post to run into. So I was only able to stick a Solemn Simulacrum, which he Vapor snagged, and pretty much made short work of me with his Geist of St. Traff. Let's take a look and see what Kevin's got going on here. Just hit his third land drop. It's going to take a look. Right here, Kevin Quinn needs to lay the Pristine Talisman. He doesn't have a fourth land drop. His only option here is definitely to lay the Pristine Talisman. Black Sun Zenith for one would just be flat wrong. He has way too much use for that in the future here. He's thinking way too hard here. I mean, this is a snap Pristine Talisman moment. Andy Black Suns, I think this was one of his biggest and his first mistake. Getting rid of the Blade Splicer keeps his opponent off of Restoration Angel, blinking Blade Splicer next turn. But ultimately, laying the Pristine Talisman, getting the fourth mana, it increases his options for the next turn. And if he has the Black Sun later in the game, ultimately, even with the extra Blade Splicer token, the Restoration Angel, whether it comes down before or after, is not going to save anything from the Black Sun Zenith. And also, there's a chance for him to get the Restoration Angel nerfed with the Black Sun Zenith. Remember, he doesn't have to kill everything with the Black Sun Zenith. If he gets the toughness down to around 1, the Curse of Death's Hold will play cleanup in a little bit here. So his opponent's going to take another look at his hand. We can see he's got Liliana Trading Post. So now, if he doesn't Ripple Land, he still only has the Pristine Talisman for his next turn's play, and all he did was put a -1/-1 counter on a Golem and clear a Blade Splicer. I feel like that play is going to really lose him value in this game and could ultimately give him some problems. He does have a second Black Sun Zenith, and he did just draw a Dark Slick Shores, so next turn he'll have 5 mana. But I believe that this was the play that he should have made last turn, playing the Pristine Talisman. So right now, Kevin's a little behind. His hand is still very stacked. It looks like the Delver player's hand is stacked as well. So, you know, we'll see how it plans out. And I think this game's going to demonstrate a lot of what I've talked about with this matchup. Delver should be a good matchup on paper. A lot of their cards do not have any good effects against this deck. Their swords are much weaker than they are against other decks. However, if Delver gets an early start and is backed up by counter magic, it can be very hard for any deck to beat, and especially Tezz Post. Tezz Post kind of has that clunky kind of a, you know, everything that works good against them is mid-game to late game. It's a 3-drop, a 4-drop, a 5-drop. Post board here, this is a game 3, so Kevin Quinn should have, yes, he has the Liliana. So Kevin Quinn should have the Liliana. He should have some Doomblade, so he has some spot removal. But the Black Sun Zenith is very important in this matchup because ultimately it's one of your really only ways of dealing with Geist of St. Traff. Geist of St. Traff is actually very hard to deal with here. So let's see. We've got 6 mana. Opponent tapped out. I believe he has a Tezzeret, a Curse, a Lily in his hand. Perhaps a Trading Post. Trading Post could be a pretty decent play here. He just played his other Black Sun Zenith, and then this is... See, what just transpired here is Kevin Quinn actually lost tons and tons of card advantage. That Black Sun Zenith would have been monumental for him later in this game. And also, you know, losing the 2 counters from Liliana, especially with a play like Talrand here, creating multiples, and now not having a Black Sun Zenith, and only having the Curse of Deathhold. See, last turn, if he'd have played the Curse of Deathhold, he would have brought the token down to a 1/1, and he would have killed the Snapcaster, leaving the Black Sun and Liliana still in his hand. So though he could have wound up and swung with the sword on the 3/3, it would have been as simple as laying the Tezzeret, turning the sword into a dude in Black Sun Zenith for the rest of the guys there. I think that's the right play. I'm not sure that Kevin realizes that Tezzeret can make his opponent's equipment into a creature and kind of nullify the ability to equip it. Creatures cannot be equipped by an animated artifact that's been turned into a creature off Tezzeret. So at this point, Kevin Quinn is looking at big problems. He's got the Tezzeret, he's got Trading Post, so he still has options. He can find some things. Liliana is just an absolute sitting duck at this point. Probably playing the Tezzeret and looking for the top 5 is the right play here. He could grab, you know, any number of things. A Tumble Magnet would just be a glorious draw. He has the ability to have 7 mana in play. So he could feasibly go Tezzeret up 5, get Tumble Magnet, Phyrexian Metamorph. Even Ratchet Bomb wouldn't be bad in a situation like this, but he definitely needs to make that play and see where it takes him. 5 cards is quite a bit. You probably are going to hit at least something that you can use in that situation. I mean, tell me, how good would Black Sun Zenith be right now? And, you know, that's kind of the makeup of this matchup. The Black Sun Zenith is critically good. And, you know, Kevin kind of wasted him away, and also wasted away a Liliana Sacrifice. Not a lot going on here. So let's take a look where we left off. Game 2 against Stan Twarski at the FNM Championships. I did actually have an awesome starting keep. I had Liliana, I had Bloodline Keeper, Curse of Deathhold, and Black Sun Zenith with 3 lands. Stan admitted to keeping a 1-land hand, which, you know, I told him, we actually had discussed it before the event. You know, let's make sure that we keep good hands. We don't keep risky stuff. He decided to keep it just on the fact that, you know, we knew each other locally, and he felt there was no reason, you know, not being a game up, that he should not risk it. He also, according to him, he had a pretty good, you know, opening hand. He had Delver, he had a Ponder, 1 land, and a Gitaxian Probe. So a lot of Delver players will tell you they'll keep a hand like that. So turn 1, I lay a land, pass. He plays a land, Delver, Gitaxian Probe, looks at my stuff, draws his card. My turn 2, I draw, second land, pass. Things are still looking pretty good for me. I pass to him. He flips Delver off of a mana leak. So now, knowing that he's seen my hand, I'm kind of looking at the situation and I'm saying, okay, well, he knows what I have. I can't just sit back and wait, and then I have a Black Sun Zenith or a Bloodline Keeper that I get countered instead. So as good as Liliana was, I just kind of had to throw her to the mana leak at this. So I did that. Mana leak dies, or I'm sorry, Liliana dies to mana leak, and I pass turn. He untaps, leaves his mana untapped, swings, pass turns back to me. I go Bloodline Keeper. He goes second mana leak. Okay, impressive. And which he later admitted to that he had top decked that turn as well. So now I've gotten rid of 2 of my cards. I'm down to, I believe, like 14 or 11, something like that already. pass turn back. He's got 4 mana. I go to play the Black Sun Zenith. I think it was the Black Sun Zenith. It could potentially have been the Cursed Deathhold. I'm not certain, but I believe that it was a Black Sun Zenith. And he goes Snapcaster Mage. So play Snapcaster Mana Leak. Now I'm really behind. He's got a Snapcaster. He's going to hit me with for a turn. He's got the Delver. The next turn, I finally land the Cursed Deathhold. Kills the Snapcaster, nerfs his Delver. I think I have like 2 Pristine Talisman out at this time. And Stan has no white mana. So things are looking good for me. I'm stabilized. I'm gaining more life than he's dealing, or as much life as he's dealing damage to me. I believe at some point I hit a 3rd Pristine Talisman. But then we go on a spree where for 4 turns he draws no white land, and for 4 turns I draw nothing but land. And he's already countered all of my real threats. So though I'm stabilized, there wasn't really a lot that I could do. So Stan ends up drawing the white mana, gets a Geist of St. Traft in play, and ends up putting a Sword of War and Peace on it and just beating me down. So I start the tournament off 0-1, losing to a local guy in a match that I kind of felt was a good matchup. You have to play this matchup like your opponent does not have counter spells, and you have to play this matchup like they don't have the Vapor Snag, except in the case of your bigger, higher end stuff like Worm Coil Engine. If you can get a Sack Outlet on board like a Trading Post, or you can get a Phyrexia's Core, and then play around Mana Leak and still have the ability to also play around Vapor Snag by sacking your creature. Because really, if they go for the Vapor Snag and you sack a Worm Coil Engine, it sets Delver back very far, because one, they've lost the Vapor Snag now. You didn't lose the life, and they have to deal with 2 3/3s that, I mean, basically at that point, Delver has a very hard time dealing with. So round 2 of the FNM Championships, I was playing against what I thought was a blue-white mid-range deck, but actually turned out to be a Delver deck. Game 1, he got there on the back of like 3 Blade Splicers, Tameo, and Gideon, so it was really feeling like it was the mid-range matchup. Turns out Game 3, he ends up dropping Delver on turn 1, so kind of a shock to me, but that game had a whole bunch of twists. I had at one point a Mimic Vat with Phyrexia Metamorph on it that I had to make into a copy of a Trading Post so that I could pitch a card and gain 4 life and survive for another turn, then Black Sun everything away that he had. So, you know, a lot of cool stuff that went on there in that match, but in the end he did squeak it out with a couple really awesome top decks. So after 2 rounds, here I am 0-2 with 2 matchups that I really felt were in my favor, and one that specifically the opportunity to win was there. I don't know if I didn't play tight enough. You know, that's on me. Round 3, I actually had the opportunity to face the mirror match by Matthias Telkamp, actually a Nationals player from a few years back, with a lot of decks under his belt. He actually has quite a few Tezz Post lists posted online that you can find just by searching his name, or really just Tezz Post, as I found afterwards. Seemed like a really good player. I think that he just had some misfortunate draws, and I drew pretty well. Made short work of him, but he was definitely a good player. I definitely respected him. You know, and that's honestly the way a lot of mirror matches go. It's going to come down to who draws better. I'm just thankful that we didn't have to play an hour-long game of who can recur the most Worm Coils. But so round 4, I played against Demetrius Nikopoulos from Russia, playing Neopod, and this was a matchup that I felt really good going into. We had play tested it quite a bit. Turns out that Cursed Deathhold was as advertised. It fit the plan. I wish I had actually seen more Neopods. He did take game 1 from me, and it got a little scary, but the other 2 games, dropping the Cursed Deathhold, just completely locked him out of the games. Bonfires didn't really do much against me. You know, he was strong. You could tell he understood the deck. He had a lot of good lines of play. He had a couple opportunities with the right top deck that he still could have beat me, but he didn't. So let's take a look here at what Kevin and Shane are up to. It looks like the game is still handily in Shane's hands. Kevin has the Metamorph and a Trading Post, I believe. Yes. So Trading Post here. I think he should have probably turned this Sword of War and Peace into a creature to have it fall off, and then used a goat to chump block. However, if he takes a Worm Coil here, he does have the Trading Post. He'll have the ability to protect it from Vapor Snag, and that's what he's going to do. So not a terrible play, and really, depending on what is in Shane's hand, actually Kevin's not out of this game. And if he just had that Black Sun Zenith to deal with one more of these situations, I do think, however, Shane has a Restoration Angel in hand, which is going to push some damage. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. So we'll get back to the FNM Championship report here in a second after we take a look at, yep, Shane drops in the Restoration Angel and draws a Mana Leak, which Kevin does have the Cavern on Worm, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I think, yeah, that's a lot of damage. In the next round, I played Marcin Lugzak from Poland. Was playing Wolf Run Blue. This was a matchup that I had a lot of concern with going in because it had just gotten popular. The deck was built around beating Delver, Zombies, and Naya, so wasn't sure how this deck would perform. Turns out, Tezzeret and main deck Phyrexian Metamorphs are very good in this matchup. Game 1, I got a Tezzeret down early. Believe it was turn 3 off the back of a Sphere of the Suns. Started turning the Sphere and other cards, other artifacts into 5/5s and just beating for the win. Game 2, I let slip away. Pretty unfortunate. I felt like I was very far ahead. He played a Karn the Liberated, and I did not appropriately deal with the Karn, which ended up costing me game 2. So game 3 was really kind of neat. It was the exact same situation. I was very far ahead, got him to like 9 life, was putting a lot of good threats down. He ends up landing a Karn, and again, I don't deal with it properly. However, I did have a Worm Coil Engine that I was sandbagging so that he wouldn't remove it with his Karn, and I end up sticking Worm Coil and 2 Phyrexian Metamorph turns back to back, because ultimately once I had the Trading Post, once I had the Trading Post, he couldn't just deal with my Worm Coil. He had to deal with one or the other. And the moment that he would take it down, he would lose his Karn. He started worrying a little too much about keeping that Karn around, and I ended up just killing him flat out with the guys. So that was really good. The next round, this was a real crazy one. It was against Matej Ventuch. He's from the Czech Republic, and actually he's also a very good player, Pro Tour, I believe. He's playing White, Red, Black Post. It was like one of the Brad Nelson lists. And the game just got really, really crazy. We both got the Worm Coil Trading Post engine going, and at that point, game 1, I had 95 life. He had 45 life. The board state was absolutely insane. 3 Trading Posts apiece, 3 Tumble Magnets apiece, recurring Worm Coils. I had double Curse of Death's Hold on him. I had a Tezzeret at 6 counter. So we went to time. The match actually ended 16 minutes after time, which these matches were 55 minutes, so that was really, really crazy. In the final round, I ended up playing against Delver, and it went the way that I had kind of expected Delver to go. He flipped turn 1 Delver, was putting a lot of the pressure on. Black Sun Zenith just took care of business. Both games, he really had absolutely no answers to the things that I was doing, so that's the full tournament report. 18th place. It's respectable, but I feel like the deck really could have performed a lot better. So thank you for watching. Again, this is the final installment of the Tezzeret Post deck. Be putting up some limited stuff for you guys, so keep an eye out. Please like us on Facebook at facebook.com/GameCoreLLC.